Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a literal masterpiece that dives deep into the human psyche during one of the absolute most chaotic times in global history. We're looking at Pearl S. Buck's Nobel-winning short story, The Enemy. It's this incredibly profound exploration of human relationships, cultural values, and those heavy, agonizing moral dilemmas that pop up when a global conflict lands literally right on your front porch during World War II. It's a fantastic piece for a comprehensive one-shot revision, so let's just jump right in.
Okay, picture this. I want you to put yourself right in the protagonist's shoes for the ultimate wartime hypothetical. You're a fiercely loyal citizen of your country, which is actively at war. But you're also a trained medical professional, sworn to save lives. Suddenly, you find your sworn enemy, wounded and bleeding out, right on your doorstep. So, what do? Do you act as a patriot and let him die, or do you act as a healer and save him? This is the exact, frankly impossible situation our main character, Dr. Sadao, gets thrust into.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with a doctor in wartime. Then, we'll look at the ultimate moral dilemma. Third is surgery and social backlash. Fourth, the escape and resolution. And finally, we'll wrap up with themes, symbols, and meaning.
Section 1. A Doctor in Wartime.
We kick things off at Dr. Sadao Hoki's home. It's this low, square stone house perched right on the rocky Japanese coast, sitting above a narrow beach lined with these bent pine trees. He lives here with his wife, Hana. And this setting, it's absolutely crucial. It highlights this physical isolation from the rest of society, for sure, but it also really represents the cultural boundaries and the deeply ingrained nationalistic roots of Sadao's upbringing. His traditional father basically guided his whole life, seeing those nearby islands as the stepping stones to Japan's future. Now, Dr. Sadao isn't just your average local doctor. The guy is a highly skilled surgeon and a brilliant scientist. When he was 22, his father actually sent him to America to learn everything he could about surgery and medicine, which, as you can imagine, fundamentally complicates how he views the world now. He came back at 30, famous and super successful. Plus, he wasn't sent abroad with the troops for two huge reasons. First, he's perfecting a major scientific discovery to render wounds entirely clean. And second, he's the personal physician to the old general, who is in pretty bad shape and might need an operation. So Sadao is indispensable. He's respected and completely embedded in the Japanese war effort. But that quiet, prestigious life is about to shatter.
Moving on to Part 2, the ultimate moral dilemma.
So here's where everything flips upside down. One evening, out of the coastal mists, a man is literally flung from the ocean. Sadao and Hana see him crawling on his hands and knees before he just collapses, unconscious. Sadao rushes over, and his expert fingers immediately find a reopened gunshot wound. But the real gut punch comes when he wipes the sand away and reads the faint lettering on the guy's battered cap, U.S. Navy. The man is Tom, a white American prisoner of war. Suddenly, the couple is faced with an agonizing decision. Do they leave him there to die or carry him inside? Despite all their fear and prejudice, they just can't bring themselves to throw an injured, unconscious man back into the deadly sea.
And right here is the absolute emotional core of this explainer. It's a literal tug of war. On one side, you have duty to country. Sadao actually notes that if the man were healthy, he'd turn him over to the police without a second thought. As an American, the man is his sworn enemy. But on the other side, duty to conscience. Sadao's been trained his whole life not to let a man die if he can help it. His medical profession demands total impartiality. This massive clash between deep-seated societal prejudice and his undeniable humanitarian instinct is what drives the whole story.
You can literally feel the pressure cooking when Sadao has this thought. He mutters, "The best thing that we could do would be to put him back into the sea." He's basically answering himself, just staring with this curious repulsion at the soldier. It perfectly captures that initial, super powerful pull of nationalism, racial conditioning, and let's be real, the sheer terror of being arrested for treason. That is, right before his deeply ingrained medical ethics take the wheel. But having made the impossible choice to bring the enemy inside, the tension in that house only escalates.
Part 3. Surgery and Social Backlash.
Once they drag him inside, the stakes go through the roof. Sadao has to operate to remove a bullet that is lodged dangerously near the guy's kidney. And what's really fascinating here is how Sadao just clicks into this zone of pure professional focus. He's probing delicately with his surgeon's light, and he even absent-mindedly calls the enemy soldier "my friend," which is just this habit he has with all his patients. Meanwhile, his wife Hana has never even seen an operation before. She is repulsed by the white man and physically sickening at the sight of the blood, but she steps up with this immense, quiet strength. She administers the anesthetic just to make sure her husband can save the man's life.
But, as you might guess, saving an enemy soldier triggers a full-on domestic mutiny. The servants essentially represent the strict societal norms and superstitions of wartime Japan, and they are terrified. They actually believe that healing a man that the gun in the sea already tried to kill will bring bad luck and revenge down on the whole house. Yumi, the nursemaid, flat out refuses to wash the white man. The old gardener who used to work for Sadao's father openly criticizes his master. Ultimately, as the days drag on and the danger of hiding an enemy grows, the servants just pack up and bounce. They abandon the household in fear, leaving Hana to manage literally everything on her own. Obviously, this intense isolation and the constant threat of discovery cannot last forever.
Section 4. The Escape and Resolution.
Okay, so Sadao knows this powder keg is gonna blow, so he takes action. Here is how it all plays out. First, to clear his conscience and protect his family, he actually reports the prisoner to the old general. Second, the general, who values Sadao way too much to let him be arrested, promises to send his private assassins to quietly dispatch the soldier in the night. So Sadao spends 3 agonizing, sleepless nights waiting for a murder that never happens. Why? Because of step 3. The cold, self-centered general falls ill and completely forgets his promise, putting his own health way above his national duty. So, finally in step 4, Sadao takes matters into his own hands. Knowing he can't kill the man himself, he hooks Tom up with a stout boat, food, water, and a flashlight, and gives him strict instructions to escape to a nearby island and wait for a Korean fishing boat.
And then, finally, we get this massive exhale. The resolution hits with Sada standing out on the veranda, looking over the twilighted sea toward the island. He waits for the flash of a light, but there's nothing. The island is empty. His prisoner is safely gone. Against all odds, he successfully navigated the deadly waters of treason, saved a human life, and got the guy out of there safely, without getting his own family killed.
Why go through all of this? It boils down to 4 words. Sadao tells himself and basically implies to the general, I can't kill him. Even after remembering all the harsh racial prejudice he dealt with while living in America and fully acknowledging that Americans are technically his sworn enemies, he just cannot let a human being die if he has the power to stop it. His baseline humanity definitively triumphs over his politically mandated hatred. All right, now that we've mapped out the plot, let's pull back and synthesize the key takeaways.
Section 5. Themes, Symbols, and Meaning. Buck uses some really incredible symbolism here. Let's break it down. First, the sea. It literally brings the wounded soldier to Sadao, and it provides his escape route. It symbolizes fate, the massive separation between warring nations, and just the unpredictable nature of life itself. Second, the house. Sitting high above the beach, Sadao's house is a literal and metaphorical sanctuary. It's a protected space where human life is preserved, totally isolated from the political hysteria of the outside world. And finally, the wound. Tom's gunshot wound is this super visceral symbol of the destructive, painful consequences that geopolitical wars inflict on everyday, common people.
Let's do a quick roll call on what these characters actually stand for, because it's vital for understanding the deeper meaning here. Dr. Sadao represents the ultimate victory of human values, ethics, and compassion over political hatred. Hana is the absolute bedrock of the household. She symbolizes quiet strength, extreme loyalty, and practical courage when things get terrifying. The old general is basically Sadao's polar opposite. He represents the cold, emotionally detached, self-centered machinery of war. He only cares about Sadao because he needs him. And Tom, the American soldier, he isn't some monster. He just represents the vulnerable, trusting, common human victim caught in the crossfire of a war he had no part in starting.
So, what's the big overarching takeaway here? It's humanity above nationality. Period. This is the central theme dictating that compassion, professional ethics, and the inherent value of human life have to transcend geopolitical borders and societal racial prejudice. Sada treats the soldier because he sees a human being and a patient first, and an enemy second. The medical oath to preserve life ultimately proves way stronger than the patriot's mandate to destroy it.
I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Does true humanity require defying your own society? Think about it. Dr. Sadao had to risk literally everything: his reputation, his freedom, his family's safety. He had to directly defy the rules of his nation just to do the right human thing. It really forces us to ask ourselves, in times of deep division and conflict, where does our ultimate loyalty lie? With the state or with the shared heartbeat of our fellow human beings? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible story with me, and definitely keep reflecting on these questions.